Hey guys, kind of stuck waiting on parts to come in that's ordered. I don't know if any of you guys kind of noticed, but shipping's kind of dragging here lately. But I thought I would share some of the things I got made and for this thing and some of the ideas. Maybe later in the video, some of the parts will come in. But got the wheels painted for the front, and I'm gonna share how I painted these. Rather than taking the tire off, and to avoid getting paint on the wheel on the tire. Sorry about the wind if there is any. I make a cardboard, real thin cardboard wall. Like basically just measure this times 3.14, add about an inch, and tape it so that it's like builds a wall all the way around here. And then you can paint the wheel, and it's a lot easier than trying to mask it all off. It's not perfect. You can see here, it's not perfect, but works rather than taking off a tire that's probably been on there for 20 years. Putting 300 EX A-arms on here. I've been mocking it up so far with 400 arms, and I really don't want to use those on this thing. And I'd rather have those for my bikes. So the 300 arms are like an inch and a quarter, inch and a half shorter than what the 400 arms are, which makes a big problem for this thing because it's 4 foot wide, and I want the edge of the tire to at least be that. So I ordered some really super long tie rod ends to make these longer. And I don't think this thing's gonna break them, because it's not really gonna be doing any heavy. It's not gonna be jumping, it's not gonna be jumping or anything. So and then if you actually think about it, how what happens to these as the suspension works is it's basically pulling on the bottom and pushing on the top. So there's, and then the dampening of the spring and stuff like that. I think it'll be fine for this machine, but that push-pull effect will be affected a little bit because I got another idea of actually mounting. I don't know. Pretend this is a shock, but mounting the shock, the original location up here, but bring it down and weld a shock mount on the tie rod end rather than bringing it down here, to the lower A-arm. My thoughts with that is bringing this closer to the hub is going to be more stable and stronger. Widening this out, what I'm doing, and if I went down here to this location, I would have to probably shim the shock and stuff to get it to work, to be strong enough, and even then, who knows. But and it also mounting that shock right there, kind of give this thing a more fuller look in the front, rather, I'm trying to make some kind of bumper too to try to fill things in to make this front end look fuller. I talked about putting like some kind of 400 EX bumper on here because it does have the locations to mount it. But one, I'm cheap and I don't want to spend the money on one for this. And two, this thing's wider, so I kind of want a wider bumper. It adds fill in. And also the bumper, I want it to be more closer to the front end. I don't want it sticking way out here because this thing's already kind of long anyways, and I want it to give it more of a stout look. I made a tensioner for the back to tension the chain, and it's made just like the one I made for the yard truck that was ginormous. But I put 2 set screws in instead of 1, and I'll show you you just loosen these up. This will get welded to that A-arm, not A-arm, but swing arm slash engine cradle. This will get welded to it, and then you just loosen these up, and there'll be a sprocket on here that you'll be able to move like this, and then there is a bolt on the end that you can put a wrench on to turn it. And then in the inside of it, and it's made just like the yard trucks. I never actually showed the inside of the yard trucks, but there's journals turned on it, so that way when every time you tighten down them set nuts or set bolts, it's going to put a gouge in this, and that way it makes it so that the gouge is down inside and not against the surface that it's turning in, so it doesn't get all galled up. And then also the set bolts keep this in a specific location so it's not moving them around. So parts is ordered, sprocket for that, bearings for the steering stem, and those long tie rods. I don't know exactly how long they are, I just know that they're long and they're the same size. It's 5/8 18 threads on them is what I've been using on the 400 arms. So, you know, right now it's just kind of up in the air on exactly where they're going to put these. The steering stem and the steering system, I kind of got some ideas going. You know how you have that clamp that bolts on here and clamps to the front of the frame. I need to make a new location for it down here somewhere, because, you know, I got something here to hold it. It's going to need something around here to hold it. And then to give the steering a ratio, it's going to need some kind of ratio, because like on a four-wheeler you have really long handlebars, and you know those long handlebars gives you leverage, which this is going to end up with like probably like a 12-inch round steering wheel or something. You'll be able to steer it if it's moving, but not, you know, sitting still or going slow, or, and even then the steering will be really super touchy. So I got some ideas. I'm thinking about using like one of those platform gears out of an MTD tractor. You know, it has a big teeth thing and then a little gear. As far as putting a rack and pinion in here, trying to stay as close to the geometry of this thing, you know, because it came out of a bike, to try to get so that the steering, everything works correctly. These right here is already throwing it off, because they're not, these two locations are not in exactly the same place as what the original 300EX ones would be. So these already are throwing it off some. So I'm figuring as long as I, you know, stay with using this and, you know, trying to stay with, as far as lengthening it, that don't matter. You can lengthen it all the way to across the country and it's going to be staying where it should. But I ain't, like I said, it's just getting thrown off some with this. So it might do something a little bit funny with that. But trying to stay with the original steering setup, you know, from here to here, and using the bottom part of the stem, I think is be my best bet. So, and then putting a rack and pinion up here and putting a drag link off of here is also a thought, but I'm still working 4 days a week, so it's kind of hard to throw money at stuff. You have seen me throw some money at things here, at seats, motors, and stuff. Basically, I use my tax return to get that stuff. Try to get all the big items out of the way, so I'm just down to, you know, $5 and $10 things. Rack and pinion is around $100. So I'm gonna take a look at those tractor things and see if we can use something with them. Alright, out here at the junk pile, and I don't know if you guys might be able to see it better than I can see it through this camera, but I got this one here. Here's the little gear, and well, that's kind of wobbly. The only thing bad about these tractor things is the amount of play they have in them. kind of annoying. Oh, we got another tractor. Let's take a look at it. This tractor here is more complete. It's basically just missing the motor. Well, it's missing the tranny in the back too, but we don't need that stuff. I'm kind of liking this setup because basically it can hold itself. I can just put a new steering shaft off of here, you know, with U-joints and stuff. Everything's like self-contained. Just basically maybe cut this whole section out of this tractor. So how much play this one's got? It has some play. Most of it's right here. I can probably make some new parts to take up the slack or what it's worn. I can just make and turn something maybe to fix stuff. I think we might use that. Let's see what I got to cut it out of there. I forgot to bring some tools and batteries out, so I don't know if I actually will get this cut out of here today, but we'll see what we got. Got that whole top taken off. And well, I got one drill battery, and the Sawzall went 3 sides, and I had to charge the battery again, so I had to wait for that, and I can get the rest of it cut out. But I think this is going to work. It's the steering wheel will turn 1.5 turns, lock to lock. So it'll be like 3/4 of a turn, 3/4 of a turn. It seems to be pretty typical, it seems like, for anything like that. I have to machine some new stuff to fix this up so that it gets rid of the play. You see this right here isn't self-sustaining. So probably make a sleeve for this, weld it to this plate, and that'll get rid of that. And then I'll run off of this with probably just a U-joint right on here and then off to the steering. You know, I don't know exactly where this thing's going to go in the kart yet, but I'm kind of leaning maybe more towards the passenger side of the unit, like foot area for the passenger side, and then so that way it gives me more room between the steering wheel and this thing. Kind of looking at this thing here, I'm kind of like, this might make a good dog box for the yard truck, like cover the motor up. I don't know if it's big enough, but you have to make some plate or something to put on top of stuff like this, but you know, make a good metal dog box. So after 45 minutes of waiting for the battery to charge, I finally got this thing cut off. And then after I got it cut off, I'm kind of looking at it like I could have just unbolted it because it's all one piece, except for this piece bolts to this, which, you know, is going to have a lining up bolt pattern. So I could just run bolts through and put nuts on the other side. I probably won't use this plate, just make mounts to bolt this whole unit in. And kind of looking at this, kind of hard to explain, but the only issue I see with this is that you have to use a drag link setup from here to the steering stem, because otherwise it'd be backwards. You'd be turning left to go right, or right to go left. So it has to use a drag link. Using the drag link reverses it back. From the best I'm thinking about this. And then the this travels like this. So given that it's going from here to here as it travels, it's the ratio in the steering is going to change as you're turning, if that makes any sense at all. Because like if you change the length, say, of your pitman arms, the longer you make them, the less the more leverage you have, the more travel you have, things like that, and then it eats up the travel of your device. So Yeah, imagine if you had a tie rod coming off here, tie rod coming off of here. Yeah, it'd be backwards. Yeah, so anyway, I'm going to use a drag link anyways. So, but yeah, and then I also was digging around on my shocks while I was waiting for the battery to charge, and I think I'm gonna use these. These are off of a Bayou. I don't know if they're front or rear, but I'm gonna use these on the front, and then use these as shock mounts. They fit perfectly down in there. So I have to cut tops off, and then drill holes in them. And just weld them to the tie or ball joints. You know, the tie rods, but they'll be used as ball joints. And then the other end is too wide to go up in a 300EX, so I'll have to cut these somehow. Try not to cut into the top of the shock, but cut and narrow these up. But I think that's all I got for today. I'll catch you guys later.